Welcome to the Champion Within podcast, your go-to spot for unlocking a winning mindset. Whether you're an athlete chasing greatness, a parent cheering from the sidelines, a coach leading the charge, or an educator shaping young minds, this pod party is for you. Hey, if we haven't met before, I'm Kate McCauley, your pod party host, former educator turned mindset mentor. I get to meet people where they are and get them to where they want to go. Expect awesome guest conversations with athletes, some solo chats to level up, and always leave this pod party with quick, powerful strategies to help you and your crew push past limits, embrace challenges, and crush goals both on and off the field. Let's tap into the champion within, because greatness is just a mindset away. Welcome into the Champion Within. Thank you for deciding to hang out with us today. Today, I am lucky to talk with Bill McGlone. I'm excited to share his story with you. I do want to tell you that I have known Bill for a long time. I'm older than Bill. It's an interesting journey when you get to be the older sister and have three younger brothers, and you watch their friends and siblings grow up and do really cool things, and you are inspired by their journeys. This is true in the case of Bill McGlone for me. I have been inspired by his journey, not only on the lacrosse field, but off the lacrosse field as well, for many reasons. Obviously, he's a great athlete, but also that he is open about the highs and lows of his journeys, both on the field and off the field. It's inspiring to see both his success and growth in many different areas of life. I'm lucky to be connected with him still through family now that he is married to a friend of a friend kind of situation where my brother is married to Lisa, who is very good friends with his wife. So we see each other at birthday parties. Most recently, I want to say it was maybe this past August at my nephew's birthday party. He and I started talking about podcasts. And I said, yes, I'm doing my podcast. I said, by the way, you need to come on my podcast. Today, we are going to get to dive into his story. You are going to want to lean in on this one. I know he has a lot of awesome mindset tips for you to share. How are you today, Bill? Thanks for jumping in and joining me today.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's a pleasure to be on. I appreciate everything that, you do. Your family is obviously, a great family. And, Drew, who's married to Lisa, we were at the birthday party and we got talking about this. And, it's just, like I said, it's just an honor to kind of be on the show. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for jumping in. Let's start with lacrosse. I know you were a multi-sport athlete, but tell us a little bit about that lacrosse journey for you.
Yeah, I actually started playing when I was about 12 years old, so I was a little bit late to the game to come in, but some of the local coaches just noticed I was a good athlete, and they really thought it'd be a good fit for me, or at least to try out. And I played that ball for the school and then lacrosse for the local community. It's a pretty obvious decision after that because, lacrosse is so much more fast-paced, more similar to basketball, and that was more my speed. So that was like the start of my journey, and then elevated, progressed through high school, had a pretty good high school career. I got some opportunity to get recruited to, University of Maryland, the top school in the country. So it was really exciting to get that opportunity and went there, success there. Greatest accomplishment there that I hang my hat on is I was voted the first 2-year captain in like 25, 30 years. So that was probably my greatest honor.
That's amazing. When you were let's go back to that baseball and lacrosse. Yeah. You're playing both. Was there a point that you personally thought, okay, I'm much better at lacrosse than baseball, or I like it better? Or was it more of the coaches were saying, you're an amazing lacrosse player, we need you on the lacrosse team?
I mean, early on, like, I could tell you a funny story. Like, first time I played lacrosse, we were doing like ground ball drills, and I couldn't pick up the ground ball, so I just bent over and grabbed it with my hand and put it in my stick. And they had to like stop me, like, you can't do that. That's against the rules. You can't touch the ball with your hand. I was a novice to the game, and I didn't realize I was good or how good I could be. I just like like I said, the fast pace, the back and forth, the constant movement. Basketball was my favorite sport, and baseball was a little bit slow. And I was a catcher, so I was in on the action. So I had a lot of, I was in on every play being the catcher. but it was still too slow and boring for me. So when I just was introduced to lacrosse and I got to experience that, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Right. Makes sense. I love that you just said basketball is my favorite sport, because I remember it was actually probably another birthday party. My oldest son plays basketball, and I remember you telling him probably around that age 12 for him, you said, oh, stay with playing basketball. He was doing a lot of different sports at that time, and you were talking about how much you loved basketball. What do you think about that idea of kids playing only one sport? Is there a time where you think maybe it is time to switch to specialize in one sport, or what is your recommendation there? Do you have one?
Yeah. So, from my personal background, my experience is I encourage to play as many sports as you can, because not only does it, expose you to different skill sets and different game experiences, situations, you're also getting different coaches, right? You're getting different perspectives from different coaches. Some coaches you might really connect with, some coaches you probably won't. But you don't really know that until you expose yourself to all those different styles. But like I said, basketball for me was very transferable to lacrosse, and a lot of the skills that I learned in basketball or were innate to me carried over to my lacrosse game. So that, like I said, I would encourage that. But I think if kids can make decision when they're ready to make a decision to specialize in one or two sports, or to eliminate a sport out of their criteria or their routine, then it should be up to them. And I don't strive to forcing a kid to.
I love that you said that. I think
them.
that's so important to say, because a lot of times, I'm just going to be honest, when I'm out working with teams, I talk to the parents after. I do believe in that village mentality that everyone should be on the same page, especially with mindset. Sometimes parents have an idea of what the kid should be doing, and the kid doesn't want to do that, and they're miserable. I think it's important to really talk to your kid and say, what do you want to do? Are you ready to do this? Because it is their journey. It's not yours. It should be fun. You want to enjoy sport, especially when you're young. It's not.
You get a little bit older and it goes into college, it doesn't become as fun as it once was.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Right. So do you have any mindset things that you used when you were younger, when you were older, maybe when you got into that college level? If you were the captain 2 years in a row, was there things you were doing that made you stand out? Was it related to mindset or something else that was helping you?
I think it was a combination of things. When I was, nominated as captain, being a leader amongst men, holding my teammates accountable, but you can't hold anybody else to a standard that you're not holding for yourself. It was leading by example, with keeping myself accountable and then demanding it from my teammates.
Tell me more about that. So keeping yourself accountable and leading by example, what does that look like if somebody wanted to be that leader?
Yeah. So when you make mistakes, like everybody's gonna make mistakes. It's just a part of the game. It's part of life. It's not so much about making the mistake. It's how you're going to respond to that mistake. So instead of pointing your finger, blaming others, you gave me a bad pass, you did this, you did that. Like, I had a role in the play, and I did something that I could have done better. I just would acknowledge that, and then I would do everything I could to improve upon that. Whether it was, stick work mistake, a dodging footwork mistake, they would see me after practice, focusing on those specific areas that I needed to improve on. So I think that showcased to my teammates that I was that drive to become the best player I can be. So I think that was probably something that attracted the guys to nominate me for captain. And then the other thing I would say is I was really big on visualization. So I didn't know that there was a science behind it, which is that particular activating system that we touched on.
Right.
But I would visualize things, and I would put myself in situations, plays, and I would make 5, 10, 15 different plays from that mentally in my head. And I would just repeat and go that over and over again. I became kind of obsessive with it. And then when things would transpire in reality, those plays would manifest, and people would always be very dude, how did you think to do that? Where did that come from? It's
right.
That may be the first time I've done it in reality, but I've done that 100 times in my head. So that was just a reaction. It wasn't something I thought of in the moment. I thought about it so many times prior that it just became reactive. So
Yeah.
that was enough.
You just explained that perfectly for exactly what visualization is. So two things that I have to pick apart there. It was almost like you were with me yesterday. I was working with a volleyball team yesterday and we were talking about a reset after they, lost the point back and forth with the volley and they were getting stuck and couldn't move past it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it was from the game before, they were still stuck in that and it was impacting their performance. So same thing with lacrosse. If maybe they're stuck in the last game or the last play, whatever it might be. You said something about it doesn't really matter about the mistake itself. It's what you do next that matters most. And that piece of advice is golden for every athlete. And really, that's transferable to life in general.
Mm-hmm.
What you do next matters most because you can't change the mistake. Putting that stick work in after practice, that is a true example of a leader and somebody who wants to improve their game. You have to be able to look at that and say, what can I do next? And it doesn't have to be 25 steps. It could be one thing, take one step. So I love that you said what I do next matters most, because that is, if anyone takes one thing from our podcast, steal that. I think there's going to be a ton of things for people to steal, but that's a great one. And then the visualization part, the reticular activating system, you are so in line with that. I know you said you didn't even know what that was. I am curious, how did you start doing the visualization? Because what you were doing is exactly what I train people to do. And what is happening there, just so people understand, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I have been trained to do this. When you visualize yourself doing those things, your brain does not know the difference between reality and what you are feeding it. So when you are telling yourself, I suck at this, I can't do this, I'm always this, that, or the other thing, your brain will prove you right. And when you see yourself performing at a high level, doing well, your brain will look for opportunities for you to do that. And when people say to you and other people, how are you doing this or that? It's almost hard to describe that you say, well, I've seen myself do it before, but you have because you have visualized it. And our brains think that is what is really happening. And the more often you do it, the more comfortable. I have done that for myself within my business, for, sports and different things. And when I train athletes to do it, at first they think this is a little strange, woo woo. Is this really gonna? But then when it happens for them, I teach them some little tricks, which, you know what? I'm just going to throw it out there now for anyone's listening. I'll tell you right now, just close your eyes and think of a symbol, think of something, and then you will start to see that in your environment. If it's a circle, a heart, I'm telling you that you'll start to see those things and then start to go a little bit deeper. Like Bill was saying, visualize yourself, whatever it is, the sport you're doing. So how did you start doing the visualization if you didn't really exactly know? Did you just start picturing it?
I had no idea that, like I said, there was a science behind it. It's just, I think I was so passionate and obsessed with becoming the best athlete, best person, best player I could be, that was just an innate tactic that I would use, that I just would always, visualize previous games or when I would make mistakes and make bad plays. And that's the thing that I'm still trying to figure out, how to remember the good things over the bad things, because the bad things are always much more, front of the mind than any positive plays you make.
Right.
But
I mean, that's part of it too, to visualize yourself, seeing yourself in a setback or a failure, and then what you do next in that visualization. And then your brain will say, it might not be the exact thing. So sometimes people say to me, well, what if it doesn't happen exactly this way? It's not going to be exactly that way, but it will be very close if it's your sport. Because, in lacrosse or volleyball or whatever the sport is that you're participating in, it's pretty similar. It's not going to be you running on a highway. The ball's going to be on the field, right? So it's very similar. People do this for injuries. There was actually a study, and there was Olympic athletes doing this with injury, that they were doing the visualization techniques and they were still seeing growth while they were injured because they couldn't practice. So it's pretty cool what your brain can do. So really cool. So I would love to hear, after your lacrosse journey, or maybe during your lacrosse journey, was there times where you felt that this is a challenging moment for me and I need to lean into mindset. Maybe it was a tough loss or it was, you didn't make a team when you're getting to like the professional level, things like that. Can you think of a story or a moment related to that? I do like to tell people, sometimes people think, oh, Bill McGlone, he's athletic. He did the visualization. He made this team. He made the playoffs. He's got all these things. Good for him. I don't have that. But I think it's important for people to know that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. So related to lacrosse first, was there any time where you could think, this was challenging and I had to put in the hard work, and how did mindset play a role there?
Yeah. 2010, I was a few years into my pro career, playing both the field lacrosse and the indoor lacrosse. And there was tryouts for Team USA, 2010 Team USA team. And, I had a good tryout, and I thought like I was the caliber of player that would make the team. And unfortunately, I was not selected to make Team USA for the men's that year. And that was a tough pill to swallow. And my initial reaction wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. This is politics. They're taking him because of this, X, Y, or Z. So that was my initial reaction. But then once I calmed down, did some breath work, we try to breathe and get like a meditative state, and just kind of, apply that response to the situation. That experience, I just doubled down. I put in harder work, much more focus towards my game, and I ended up making all-star teams beyond that. Those good results that came out of that situation, but that was definitely a difficult, challenging, part of my career.
It's totally normal for us to be upset. And I mean, it would be strange if we were like, okay, I'm just going to go breathe now. Who cares if I didn't make the team? I say that to athletes all the time. It's totally fine to be pissed and upset. It would be odd if you're not. You should feel those emotions. I don't ever want people to think I can't feel my feelings. There's a time and place where you got to get in the zone, but it's important to acknowledge it. But when you do that breath work and the visualization too, it just came up for me in my brain now. Was there something that you put into a routine for yourself? Did you do it pre-game, maybe locker room, or did you just feel I'm feeling stressed, maybe with the breath work and the visualization like before games? Did you have a pre-game routine with those types of things or game time?
Yeah, before games, when you're in the locker room, you go out, you do your warm-ups, shoot around, and you come back in, you get dressed, and you kind of go through a routine. And then you always have, minutes before coach comes in, gives a speech. During those times is when I would just close my eyes and I would go through that visualization practice. And I would work on my breath work. I'd take 3 to 5, deep breaths in and out, just trying to calm the nerves, get myself centered, let the visualizations come, make sure they're all positive. You don't want to visualize anything negative. So I was very focused on making sure I had positive thoughts and positive visualizations towards, the game I was going into. So that's definitely something that I would do on a, weekly basis. We play games every week. So that's a pregame ritual I would participate in.
And did you have anything during gameplay that you used?
No. During games, I just shut the brain off and let my athleticism and all the preparation I put in. And that's something that I'm a coach now, and I've been coaching ever since, graduating from college. People always have issues with confidence. And how do I, my confidence, improve on my confidence? The best way that I know how to do it and the best advice I can give is preparation, right? With those visualization practices, with that work that you're putting, you got to take action. How many shots are you getting in? And when you're training and you're working on things, if you're training the wrong way with bad habits, you're almost doing yourself a disservice. So make sure that you're doing it correctly. And then you want to work on, maximizing repetitions. More important to do it right than to do it fast. I train kids. I make sure I go very slow at first. When you're learning something new, you have to go slow. Make sure you do it correct. And then the last thing you work on is the speed and the repetition and the amount of the quantity of shots that you take or quantity of things you work on.
Yeah, I love that. I think something I say all the time to athletes and people in general is trust your training.
Yeah.
You go through the training process. It is a different mindset. You have to have a different mindset during training and gameplay. It sounds to me like you're in the flow when you were playing. Some
Yeah.
people can get in that, and other people need some self-talk and different things, some strategies during actual gameplay. But you're right. Training is very different than
Yeah.
gameplay, and you have to understand that, because if not, you're not going to be able to play at your best. I love the tip of going slow. Sometimes people do want to get in there and hit it hard, and it's like, whoa, slow your roll. I had mentioned in the beginning that there has been some highs and lows within your journey on and off the field. Is there anything that you wanted to share, part of the journey, with our listeners?
Yeah. So when I was 20, I want to say 24, 25, I was traded to Philadelphia in the indoor league, the NLL, which dream come true. I get to play in front of my hometown, the Wells Fargo Center. It was an amazing opportunity that I was granted. Really excited. And unfortunately, when I came back, I moved back to Philadelphia. I was bouncing around the country. And when I moved back to Philadelphia, I ran into a buddy of mine who had some prescription medication, some Percocets. And he offered me one. Didn't think too much of it. I was like, all right, sure, I'll try it. Tried it. I was having a few beers, whatever, and I had a really good time, really good experience. I really enjoyed it. So I didn't think, like I said, I didn't think too much of it. And, that happened a few more times within the next couple months. And then it just kind of progressed. Then I started to seek it out a little bit. Long story short, it led into a full-blown addiction. I wish I could blame it on injuries, in my athletic career,
Right.
which did, introduce him to me. My career, I'd get on him and experience it, but didn't have any access beyond that. Really didn't want to pursue it either. But I came to this gentleman, and that was, unlimited access if I wanted it. When I was presented with that access, that's when, things got into a dangerous realm for me. And
Right.
so for my second year in Philadelphia till I was 29, so like 26 to 29, I was battling this opiate addiction. And I tried to quit. I tried to use that visualization. I tried to use all these tactics that I used in my athletic career against this, and it was just proven to be unsuccessful. My family had a little intervention for me, and I went off to rehab. And then when I went to rehab, that's when I really started to be able to apply those mental tactics, my addiction, to my situation. And something that, I learned from that, or that I have really noticed helped me get through that, is controlling the controllables. And that's something that I preach to my players now that when I'm coaching them. And what could I control in that situation? I can't control, that I fell into this, that I got addicted to these pills, but I can control what I do next. And the three areas that I would, be able to control is focus, attitude, and effort. So my focus, diving into the rehab, to the program that they advised, which is a recovery program, and really just, putting my energy into that. And, having a positive attitude. Obviously, there's a lot of guilt, shame, and remorse going through what I've gone through, and, coming, falling from, pretty good reputation to having to admit to these faults. And long story short, I ended up getting sober. I stayed at the rehab facility for 35 days. And from there, when I got out, I just really dove into the program, the recovery program. And, thankfully, I've been clean and sober ever since, going on 11 and a half years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So congratulations on 11 and a half years.
Yes.
And I just want to say thank you for being so open and sharing that journey, because not everyone would. I think it is important to share it, because it is a struggle that people have, athletes and non-athletes. And for you to openly share it is very vulnerable and brave of you. And to say that mindset helped you with that, but that you needed help too, because I know myself, not even being the level of athlete that you are, just being a competitive person in general, it's hard to ask for help and to be able to say to someone, I can't do this by myself. I need someone else to help me. And I'm sure that having that intervention with your family, and then going into the rehab, and then admitting it and like you said, being at that level of I've fallen, that guilt and the shame, that's something that is hard to take
Yeah.
as you had, but I appreciate you sharing it. And I think that the lessons that you learned from it is something that other people hopefully are listening to and can pay attention to those things. And I want you to repeat them for me, but I think you said focus, attitude, and effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those three things, again, are transferable to so many different areas. And you had mentioned the controlling the controllables. It's almost like you and I hang out all the time, Bill, because I say those exact words. And I'll talk about not necessarily with an addiction, but with my athletes. You cannot control the ref. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control what time your practice is, all of these different things. But the things you can control, your effort, your attitude, what time you show up, what you do after practice, a lot of the things that you've mentioned, stick work after, things like that. You control so many things. And sometimes people forget that, athletes and non-athletes. And if you put the work in to control the controllables, what a difference it makes for your journey. I think that it's amazing that you shared it. And I really appreciate you being vulnerable. And we will never know, because it's not like people always reach out to me, although I do get messages, but I'm sure somebody listening here, you made a difference for them. So thank you for doing that. And I'm happy for you that you have stayed sober along that journey.
No, I was just going to say, that's why I get really passionate about it, because yeah, it's helped me in my athletic career, but more importantly, it's helped me in life so much more. I've taken these traits and characteristics that I've learned through sport, and I've applied it to life situations, and that's where I find the biggest benefits. That's really helped me overcome these adversities that I've been faced with, which I now, in retrospect, I consider as blessings, because it's given me this unique opportunity to present with these, these situations where I have the opportunity to overcome them. And I always struggle because people say, oh, you're so inspiring, this and that. And I'm like, listen, I just did what anybody would do. But I realize now that not everybody has the same kind of mindset to kind of get through those things. I talked to my sponsor about this, ad nauseum, like how people call me inspiration, whatever. And I'm like, I don't get it. I just did what I feel like anybody would do. He's like, it's not what you did, it's how you did it. And how you did it with a good attitude, and you showcase those controllables. And that's the example that people get inspired by.
Right. So as a mindset coach, I would love for you to just say, thank you.
Thank you.
when people say, not to me, you don't have to thank me, but when people say that going forward, instead of you say, I would do what anyone would do. No, that is not what everyone would do. Yeah. I know a lot of people during the course of my 20 years in education and all of the work I do now. I've met some pretty interesting people along the way, and not all of those people would do what you did. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say it honestly. And from now on, I'm going to challenge you that when someone says, you are so inspiring, that you say, thank you. Yeah. And if they look at you weird, say, Kate McCauley is making me say that. Yeah. You can just blame it on me. But honestly, because it is something for all of us to be grateful for, because as I said in the beginning, it is inspiring to watch someone do that. And I feel what you feel, that sometimes people say to me, even, how did you leave your job and go do this? How are you doing that? And they don't see the hard work and some of those things behind it. And I say, you could do this too. I explain it just like you were saying, whatever, anyone else would do the same thing. And then I think to myself, no, I don't think everyone could do this, because there's been some tough shit along the way that I don't think everyone could do this. And I'm not trying to be egotistical there, but maybe I am a little bit, because I did put in the work. I'm just going to challenge you to say thank you and I will say that I do the same thing. Just yesterday, someone said to me, wow. And I said, oh, it's what we do, I guess, as humans. It's probably brain science again, if somebody's like tapping in and looking. Speaking of the brain, I do want to talk about too, your journey, with all of the different surgeries. And I have watched that as well, and, been supporting and praying for you along the way. And I think that either knowingly or unknowingly, maybe you did it purposely, I think that mindset really has played a role there too. When I've seen you just talk about it, whether it's on a live video on Facebook or it's just when we're chatting on Lisa and Drew's patio. I just feel like mindset has played a role. And I've seen you be in a lot of pain, which has been like all of us wish we could take it away for you. And then thankfully see you get surgeries that seem to have helped. And so could you tell people a little bit about that?
Yeah. So after I got through didn't get through, but like I was able to get under my addiction under control. I took a year off of lacrosse during that time period because I was struggling so much with my addiction. My performance has plummeted. My ambition was no longer near the level that I was at before. So when I kind of took care of myself and got clean and sober, I had to earn my way back on my team. So I had to call these, GMs and owners and, kind of give them the background of what was going on and where I'm at now. So they all granted me the opportunity to come back to the team. They weren't just going to hand me a spot on the team now. So I had to earn my way back. I had to go to tryouts, retry out for the team, and earn my way back in each position. So I did that in 2014. And during that time, towards the end of my summer, the field lacrosse league, I noticed some symptoms on my right side. Not being able to train the way I was training. Cognitively, I was off. And I ended up going to get an MRI to get checked out and reported that I had a large mass on my left frontal lobe. So that pretty much started my journey of my health situation, my brain disease. And went to University of Penn. They did a biopsy, diagnosed me with neurosarcoidosis, which is an autoimmune disease of your central nervous system. So that explains like all the functional issues I was having. And after that biopsy, I was supposed to come out of the anesthesia, and I didn't. And I was hiccuping. And I was telling the doctors that my brain was falling out. So when they were doing their rounds, I was in the ICU when they were doing the rounds, and they saw I was hiccuping. They kicked everybody out of the room. They did emergency craniectomy surgery where they removed part of my skull, my brain space to swell out. And when I woke up from that surgery, unbeknownst of what happened, all I knew was I couldn't move the right side of my body. And I had no feeling, no movement. And that was the scariest part of everything, is being physically active, being a professional athlete,
right.
Something.
Do you remember saying anything at that, or could you say anything at that point?
Just tears.
Yeah.
Tears. It still gets to me.
Yeah.
I would get emotional because it's the fear of the unknown. Like, what is going on? And like accepting where you're at. Like, that doesn't just happen right away. So that fear was very overwhelming. And, it took a lot of time and energy to kind of accept those things. And like I said, it didn't just happen overnight, but all I knew is like, I'm not letting this define me. I'm overcoming this. I refuse to accept the fact that I'm going to be paralyzed. It was only on the right side of my body. Not that it was only, but it was on the right side of my body.
Can we just stop for a second and say, if you don't say thank you to people about the mindset thing going forward,
yeah,
you literally just said it was only on the right side of my body, and then you did correct yourself. But
yeah,
I'm going to put a little post-it note with you from now on. Thank you to remind yourself, because anyway, continue.
Well, it's funny because people compliment me on like whatever, and I would always get back to them. Well, no, I'm not doing this right. I would immediately criticize myself when people are trying to, compliment me. So what I've had to learn in that is to do exactly that. Just say thank you. And that's something I've had to incorporate, but I'll do it again with, what you're suggesting. But anyway, so, paralyzed on the right side of my body, and I spent, weeks in the ICU until I got upgraded to Bryn Mawr rehab, where I had to learn how to walk again. Also had a lot of speech issues, because the part of the brain that it affected was speech, emotion, which was a blessing too, and motor skills. I went to Bryn Mawr rehab. I had to learn how to walk again, and my right side would drag. And when I would do these physical therapy sessions, they would give me a certain amount of exercises to do. And I would always say, hey, can I do more? Can I do more? Mm-hmm. And they said, no, absolutely not. Because they're responsible for me. I got half a skull missing, my brain exposed.
Could I just jump in here? You just sounded like the kids you train, where you're saying, we have to go slow. We can't jump in and do everything super fast. Just saying, but.
Well, it wasn't about the speed.
It was doing more.
I want to do more.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
I want to, because like I said, I was not giving up or not allowing myself to.
I do love that. I do love that piece.
And so what I did, and I understand now in retrospect, I would apply those controllables: the focus, attitude, and effort. Right, the focus. I would literally visualize walking again. Walking with a normal gait. Running, being able to jog and sprint and play games. Doing the same kind of visualization of my professional career. Getting back to that level, and that was the visualization part. And then, the attitude was really tough. That was probably my biggest obstacle, because you want to be like, why is this happening to me? Like, what is going on? Like, how is this going on? And, I had to really understand that, like, hey, these are the cards I'm dealt. This is the hand I'm going to play. So it doesn't matter what happened to me. I'll get through it. And it's about what I do next. So it brings me into the effort part. And that's when they told me I couldn't do extra repetitions or, sets of certain exercises, they would leave because they had a bunch of patients they were attending to. They would watch me over when I was doing my set, and then they would go attend to somebody else. But when they would go to attend somebody else, boom, I was going right back.
I knew you were going to say that.
And I do, a set of 10 or reps of 10, a set of 1. When they would leave, I would do 2 more sets. I would do a set of 20, or, right. 20 reps. So I was just putting the effort into, to getting back to where I wanted to get to. And the, end result, the positive thing I can say about it is about a year and a half later, November of the following year, I was diagnosed in September, went through all that in like October, November. That following November, I ran the Rocky Run, which is a 10-mile marathon.
Amazing.
That was my,
Yeah, that's incredible.
My trophy with that medal.
Yeah, that's incredible. So many things that carry over from your athletic journey, and that mindset work. Hey there, before we dive back into the pod party, how about we sneak out for a quick break? Feeling the weight of the daily grind? Our workshops and staff development programs are your backstage pass to success. We're here to arm you and your leadership squad with the tools to ace those goals, tame stress, and foster a winning culture. Forget the boring seminars. Our workshops are all about real connections and real results. Whether it's virtual or in person, we're here to elevate your success. After the show, visit shop.danunow.com to learn more and set up a free call to chat. We tailor our programs to fit your needs and goals. Let's get back to the show. Grab your virtual goodie bags so you can fill them up with all of the mindset magic. I'm not surprised at all that you were putting in those extra reps, as just like you were with the stick work. It's been a journey for you, for sure.
Yeah, I'm still going through it.
You are.
My latest surgery, 2 surgeries, was this past January. So right. I'm still recovering from that. And that was a really difficult part of my journey, because for the last 2+ years, like 2.5 years almost, I ended up acquiring a CSF leak, which is CSF is the fluid in your skull that keeps your brain afloat.
Okay.
And I had low fluid, so my brain was sagging and sitting at the bottom of my skull. And what that tells doctors is, all right, there's a leak somewhere of that fluid. So Penn, Jefferson, Hopkins, I got a second opinion down at Hopkins. None of them could find this leak. And, I live in a pretty good location for hospitals, really good, medical options around me. And none of them could find it. And my neurologist referred me to a doctor out in LA who specializes specifically in these CSF leaks. And he does like this high resolution imaging, what they're called myelograms, which are like live MRIs.
Mm.
And he did perform that on me. Didn't find a leak either. I'm like, Doc, kind of losing hope here. Like, you're the guy. You're the guy that's supposed to be,
Right.
end all be all. And he's like, that's okay. We got some other options that we want to try. And basically, you have a sac in the bottom of your spine that holds excess CSF. And he went in, he did a back surgery where he shrank that sac, forcing the CSF back up into your brain, raising the CSF in your skull, leaving the symptoms. That was, I think, the fix. But he also had to do another craniotomy because the craniotomy I had before wasn't fully covering the skull. So he had to do another craniotomy. So it was a combination of the back surgery and the head surgery. And like I said, I just got back this past January and still recovering. But that was a really difficult part of my journey because with the brain, obviously that affects your personality, that affects that control, that affects your thinking and your thoughts. So it was really tough for me to have that same mindset during that period of time. And, I struggled through it. But, since coming back from those surgeries in January, to regain this mindset and act on the things that I should have been acting.
I'm curious, just because I'm always fascinated with the brain. My youngest guy has a uniquely beautiful brain, and the work that I do is really because I learned a lot about his brain. Did you notice that you were different with your brain, or were other people saying to you, this isn't the typical you?
No, that's a great question because no, I did not notice. Like,
Okay.
I thought I was like, dude, I'm fine. Like, what's your problem? What's your issue? And they're like, you're not okay. Like, and there were some glaring things that I couldn't stay awake for more than an hour. And it wasn't falling asleep. It was nodding off. Like, and when I would go to my recovery meetings, like I had to preface, like, I got a brain issue. Like, I'm not nodding off for other reasons. Like,
Right.
this is like something I'm dealing with. But like, so things like that. And like my temper was much shorter. Cognitive awareness was off. There's things that I could pick up on a little bit, but not to the extent that others were, and they would tell me how bad I was. I'm like, I don't think I'm that bad. And again, I'm probably stubborn with my mentality. Like, I think I'm better than I am. For health, from a health perspective. But yeah, people definitely had to like let me know how bad I was. And I didn't really believe it at the time. And not until I got back from LA that like I could start to grasp the concept of, okay, man, I was bad. I didn't realize how bad I was until people see me now and they're like, holy moly, you're a new person. And I feel like a new person. So like I'm learning more about how bad I was now than I was in the moment.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just curious about that. If you could tell. When I talked with my son, his is not an injury. It's just learning differences. It's actually gifts, but they bring challenges. And sometimes I think he's aware and other times he isn't. And I have to help him be mindful really of how to navigate the world with his gifts, because other people sometimes don't see them as gifts. I'm just always curious, if like, are you aware that this is a little different set? But it's interesting that way. I do just have to, you do it all the time. I'm just going to give a shout out to Nicole too, and all of your family and everyone that has helped you along the way with that journey, because that is really a challenge for everyone. Of course, you in the recovery still, but all of the people that love you, the community, really beyond Ridley, that has jumped in to love you too. And you always are so grateful. That is another thing that I think you lean into a lot that is really awesome to see, just gratitude. I'm obsessed with gratitude. I think a lot of people are, but it is always something you talk about. But I'll just give a shout out to you because I love Nicole also. So that is, something I wanted to say. So
I
there at the end.
That. And that's something, I gone through what I gone through, and I would so much rather it happen to me because I think it was so much tougher for everybody else to watch me go through it than for me to have to go through it. And that's what kind of really gets me emotional a lot of times, is thinking about what they had to go through. And like my brothers and my parents, everybody that loves me, what they were thinking and going through, especially early on in those emergency surgeries where listen, they had to do that emergency surgery because I was going to die. If they didn't do that immediately, as soon as possible, I was going to die. And when they did those surgeries, my parents, my wife, girlfriend at the time, Nicole, they didn't know. They thought I wasn't going to come out of that surgery alive. So those are the things that really, just make me emotional.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a blessing to have so much support, not only my immediate family and extended family, but all the love and support I've gotten from the community. I had a GoFundMe recently to do my trip out to LA, and it's just been overwhelming with how much love I get from everybody. And I can't thank everybody enough. I don't know how to thank everybody.
Yeah.
So
everyone knows. Everyone knows you're grateful. Yeah.
I don't know what to do, but just say thank you. Yeah, I'm doing.
Yeah. You say thank you. You are very good at saying thank you for that all of the time. Yeah. So that the only thank you have to work on is that inspiring thing. Yeah. I always ask my guests at the end of the podcast, and this is only for 1 week because we think you are amazing. If you had the opportunity to swap lives with anyone, to absorb their wisdom, soak up how they live their lives for 1 week, who would you swap lives with and why?
Yeah. Part of me wants to say a really good athlete, like a Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady type of person. So I would love to know what their mentality is towards, what they do in their professions. But more on a personal level, and this might be a little unique, but I would say Marcus Aurelius, who is the father of Stoicism, who I've really gotten into since getting back from LA, and basically what the Stoic philosophy is accepting what you can't control and controlling what you can control. It's basically how I live my life, or how do I try to live my life. And he was a Roman emperor in the 100. Thank God for only a week I'm doing this. If it was for a lifetime, it'd be a little different answer.
Right.
But he was like a Roman emperor. He had everything, at his, in his control, and he had complete access to anything he wanted. But he had very great control over his emotions and his mind. Went through a lot of difficult situations himself. He lost many children. Obviously living in ancient times, 100 AD. Had a lot of diseases and things of that nature. So had a really inspiring and admirable mindset that I would love to,
tap into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool spot.
Yeah.
It's the first time we've heard that. I always like to hear those unique ones. Very cool. I do also want to tell our listeners that you have Instagram. Do you want to drop your social media for people?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at BMAC33, BMAC33. And I also do some training for Performance Academy, which is an elite lacrosse training program that we do. So there's also that handle at Performance Academy, PA.
Amazing. So everybody, you can just check in the show notes. I will put those links right there so you don't have to go search Instagram. You'll just click on them and you will be able to find Bill, follow him, and check out what he's doing, steal some more wisdom from him. Bill, thank you so much for joining me today. I know that people are going to be sending me messages talking about all of the great things that you shared with us today. And again, I appreciate you being vulnerable, sharing your success and your growth. And I'm going to say one more time, you do inspire me. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank
much
you.
Love to you.
It's amazing to be on here, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, everyone. Thank you again for tapping in today and putting those earbuds in for the Champion Within, and we will see you on the next episode. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Whether you are going to coach, teach, cheer from the stands, or hit the field yourself, remember, mindset is everything. Don't forget to follow the show because we all need a little extra motivation, humor, and some sanity in our busy lives. Go unleash that champion within you, one step at a time. I'm rooting for you always.